Hey YouTube, this is Ian with Big Rock ADV, and bear with me. I know that my channel is really a motorcycle channel, but today I'm going to give you a review of my truck. So I own a 2017 Ford F-150 Platinum. It has a 3.5 EcoBoost motor. It's got the max tow package, it's got four-wheel drive, it's got the FX4 package, and pretty much it has everything that you can add on from Ford. I've owned this truck for about a year now, and this is the second F-150 that I've owned. So what I want to do today is give you guys a tour of the truck and all of its cool features. Then I want to talk about what I like about the truck, what I don't like about the truck. I want to talk about why I chose it over the competition. And I want to talk about why I chose the specific model, package, and engine that I did. I want to give you some real-world feedback about how this truck tows, how it hauls, how it deals with my family, and things like that. And finally, I'm going to tell you, would I buy this thing again? And also, would I recommend getting a Platinum over the other trim levels? So let's jump in and get this thing started. Okay, so I'm going to start with giving you guys a tour of this truck, kind of the features it has, its design, and some things that are unique maybe to the Platinum. So I've only made minor changes to this truck, and so as I do the tour, I'll show you. I put in the wheel well liners. I think they're from, not WeatherTech, Husky. I think they're from Husky or one of those companies. I also put on the mud flaps, I think again from Husky. They're great. Maybe I'll do another review on their products. By the way, just so you guys know, I pay for everything myself. I don't get any sponsorships. I don't get sent any products. So anything that I show you, I bought with my own money. So that's really the only changes that you see from a stock truck. It does come with the they call them fender flares, but you hardly notice them. But I guess these are something that maybe the base trucks don't have. So just a couple things here, the badging and the mirrors. Now, one thing I wanted to tell you about the mirrors, you see these lights? These are actually spotlights that you can turn on, and I'll show you here in a second. If you fold the mirrors back, which are power folding, by the way, which I like, they'll shine in the back. If you have them like this, they'll shine out to the side. They're pretty bright spotlights, and there's a button in the truck to activate them. The badge, not much to talk about there. I know a popular thing is to plasti dip the badges. I might do that. I'm not sure. I did on my last truck, so we'll see. I did put on a stubby antenna. That's another minor change I did because I just can't stand the huge whip antenna that they give you. This was probably like 15 bucks on Amazon, so good change there. Okay, so taking a look at the front of the Platinum F-150, you've got the big Ford badge here. You've got, again, this kind of the satin finish grille. By the way, this is really hard to clean, but I guess that's kind of true with all grills nowadays. A lot of little spots for bugs to get in. You do have this chrome piece on the bumper. You've got these plastic insert in the bumper, which mine is cracked, which is it's probably the previous owner hit something. I bought this truck used, by the way, which we'll get to later. You've got these chrome tow hooks. The tow hooks are great if you need to pull someone out of a ditch or if they need to pull you out of a ditch. The headlights are really beautiful on these trucks with the LEDs. So the Platinums come with the full LED headlights. I think it's an option on the Lariat and the and that trim. The turn signals, I believe, are not LED, but these lights work great and they look really nice. Also, you've got a surround light here, which I'm going to show you here right now. Here's a truck with just the low beams on. Here's the low beams and the fog lights. Now you can only have the fog lights on when the low beams are on. One complaint I have about these fog lights is you can see there's these incandescent kind of yellowish bulbs from the old days. They don't match the color temperature of the LEDs, so they don't really look that great. But that's an easy change you can do. You can change these out to LEDs to match the color temperature of this. I just haven't gotten around to it. Now if you do that, beware of your local laws. You might be breaking the law by putting in a different and brighter light here, so be careful of that. And here's a truck with the high beams on. You notice the fog lights go off when you turn on the high beams. Taking a look under the hood here, it's an engine and a battery and nothing too exciting. So my truck is a 3.5 EcoBoost. There's really nothing I want to call out under here. I guess I would just say the air box is pretty easily accessible, pops off, get your air filter, check on that. Seems to be a pretty good sized battery that's easily accessible. And for the basic things I've done on the truck, I have changed the spark plugs. This engine cover pulls off pretty easily and fairly easy to get to the spark plugs on the 3.5. By the way, if you have an EcoBoost, change your plugs pretty often. They tend to get burnt up pretty good, at least on the F-150 with the 3.5. So there's some advice for you there. So driver's side of the truck, nothing too crazy to point out. I did want to point out these EcoBoost badges here, which I think you can take off pretty easily. You might also notice these little tabs here. There's a parking sensors underneath there, in case you were wondering. Again, the light in the mirror, which I showed you. The door keypad. Okay, so if you've had a Ford vehicle, you know what this is about. You can put a code in here and you can get into unlock your truck with a keypad instead of using your key. I've come to love this feature. You know, before I owned a Ford, I'd see Fords on the road and I'd be like, what the heck is going on? Why is there a keypad? Like, is this some old school thing? No, it's really brilliant. If you're out doing a sporting activity or whatnot, you could potentially, if you want to, leave your key in the truck. Or if you're just easier for, or if your wife is, if you like, for instance, have a travel trailer and you don't always want to take the key out to the truck with you, your wife could just put in the code, get into the truck. Super great feature. Thank you, Ford, for continuing to do that. Okay, so taking a look at the back of the truck, you know, the thing on the Platinum that stands out is kind of this big satin plate with the Platinum badging. I think is a little bit over the top. Honestly, I would have preferred not to have it, but all the Platinums come with it. I've seen some people, you know, plasti dip and black them out, but honestly, it's such an expensive truck. I don't really want to put plasti dip on it, so I'm just going to leave it how it is. You do have LED taillights, which I'll show you. Now they've got blind spot monitors in here. These are the reverse lights here. I like the outline on the tail lights. I think they look great combined with the headlights. You've got the F-150 badge here, kind of in the corner, and the Ford badge in that corner there. Towing connections, you've got a 7-pin and a 4-pin. This connector here, actually, or that's not a connector, I'm sorry, that's the key to get to your spare tire, the access for that. You notice these are your parking sensors for your rear park distance sensors. You know, comes, obviously I've got the tow package, a max tow package actually, so it's got tow hitch there, which is fine. One minor complaint about Ford is that it's kind of hard to reach the little tow hooks to attach your chains, but you know, that's not a big deal. I guess a lot of trucks have that problem. The tailgate is a soft release. I mean, for $60,000, you better darn well get a soft release tailgate. Also, I wanted to mention the backup camera is here, and this is actually a light, which is kind of nice. So you'll notice my truck has the bed liner, the factory spray and bed liner, which I highly recommend, either getting that factory or getting a Line-X or whatever bed liner you want. This does have the infamous Ford step and, of course, dancing pole, which you can use to climb up into the truck. Pretty handy. So I've had the GM trucks would have the steps in the tailgate, and I've had this. Honestly, this gets you a little bit of a lower step, but this thing's kind of a hassle to take in and out. I know it sounds like kind of minor, but honestly, I do prefer GM's kind of just putting a simple step into the bumper, honestly. But this is fine. If you get a Ford, definitely do get this. Makes getting into your bed a lot easier, less stressful for you and anyone else. And especially if you lift your truck. I'm not a fan of lifted trucks, but if you lift yours, it'll be a lot easier to get into bed with that. So I also have the Ford bed extender, which comes out here, and you know, this connects here in the middle, and then you get your bed extender. It also, you can connect it inside like this, and then, you know, have a place for groceries and things. I like it actually. It's a little bit kind of cheaply constructed, and the latches don't work too great anymore, but you know, it's fine. I also use a rubber bed mat because I just like to have some cushioning for, you know, if I'm on my knees for some reason, or in the truck, or whatever my cargo is, just have that bed mat cushioning. Just a cheap thing to add. I would definitely be remiss if I didn't mention the LED bed lights, which a lot of trucks are coming with, but it's a great feature. So it's got lights on the rear of the bed on both sides, and then of course the cargo lamp, which all trucks have up by the center high mounted stoplight. But this turns on with a little button here. Now, I will give kudos to Ford for putting a button here in the bed of the truck. I believe on the Chevy, now I could be wrong, and maybe they changed this on the new ones, but on the Chevys that I've had, there was no button in the bed. You had to go activate a button in the cabin. I much prefer having the button in the bed itself, because when I need my lights on in the bed, I'm probably back here doing something. I just want to have the button here. It's also got the box link system, which is basically just a place to tie down your cargo. You can attach different things here with this locking mechanism. Just showing you the sliding rear window and the rear stoplight and the rear cargo lamp. The nice thing about the lamp on this truck, I don't know if this is true across all trims, but it's LED, which is kind of nice to see from the factory. I'll show you the sliding window now. One last thing on the exterior before we go inside. I did want to talk to you about the door handles and how the unlocking system works. So on the Platinum, and on some of the other trims, I guess it's probably not on some of the other trims, you've got your key fob, which you have buttons here, which you can lock and unlock, and that's normal. But then the truck itself, so to unlock, when you come up to it, you just put your hand behind the handle, and it senses your hand there. It senses you have the key, and it unlocks it. You hear it click. When you want to lock it, you simply touch. This is a touch-sensitive little button pad here. You touch it, and you hear the truck lock, and they're unlocked. So I like it, easy to use, great system, good job for it on that. Now, in the truck industry, back seats, we've kind of beat this issue to death, right? Yes, the back seats of a crew cab have gotten humongous. Pretty much all the modern day crew cab trucks have tremendous leg room, and it's become this bragging right for the trucks. I don't really know why. Once you have a certain amount, I think you have plenty, and I don't really get the point of competing over it. But yes, the F-150 crew cab, I mean, I'm 5'11", and I have, 8 inches in front of my knees here, and this seat is pretty far back, so great leg room on that, so we know that. You'll notice there's tons of room here for the car seat. This is our car seat base. And yes, we don't drive baby around with the car seat not attached. Of course, we do attach it when we have the baby. So you'll notice a few other things about the back. So you've got rear seat vents here on both sides, which open and close. My left one's actually broken because it's kind of cheap. You've got a cigarette plug here, power outlet. This truck has heated rear seats, 2-level high and low heated rear seats for left and right. You've got a 110 power outlet, which is really nice to see. Plug in a laptop or something. There's also a 110 outlet up front running off the inverter. And here you've got 2 USB ports. So the rear seats fold in a couple different ways. So it's a split 60-40 split folding design. You can fold the bottom up, leaving you this big flat load floor here on the bottom. Or you can fold this part down, and this gets you to your jack and different tools and things back here. Also the infamous funnel, because it has a fuel-less filler cap, which of course I forgot to mention on the exterior overview, but a lot of vehicles have that now. Now, I would be remiss again not to mention that my truck has the panoramic moonroof, sunroof, sliding glass roof, whatever you want to call it. I love this. I don't know why I love it. I just do. I really made sure to get a Platinum that had this. And so let me show you how this thing opens and closes. So what you can do is open the shade. The shade has 2 positions, halfway open like this, or all the way open like this. Oh yes, I just love that. I love driving with this thing open almost all the time. Drives my wife absolutely crazy with the sun beating down on her eyes, but I love driving with this thing open. It just feels like the outside is coming in. And now we can open the glass itself. Of course, the glass only opens halfway, because where would the whole glass go if it went all the way back? Oh yes, now you've got your nice sunroof open. Honestly, this is a pretty expensive option. Some people worry about leaks, so to each his own. Get it if you like it. If you don't like it, you don't have to get it on your truck. Okay, so stepping into the truck, into the driver's seat, a few things to notice here. You've got 3-position seat memory on this model. Door lock and unlock. You've got your automatic up and down windows. Your mirror folding controls, mirror adjustment here, so that's simple. You've also got this Platinum badge. Sorry, here mine's a little bit dirty because, I actually do use my truck. Platinum badging there when you step in. Also here you can notice your seat controls. Okay, so you've got some controls here, fog lights, rear cargo lamp, your speedometer lighting here, your lighting control, These are those power mirror, I mean not power mirror, those mirror lights I told you about. And then your steering wheel. On your steering wheel, I mean, I don't have to go through all the buttons, but you've got your cruise control, including your adaptive cruise control here, directional buttons, phone buttons, radio controls, things like that. I find them to be pretty well laid out, pretty easy to use. Of course, the steering wheel is leather wrapped, and you've got this sort of satin machine finish carrying on to the steering wheel here. The steering wheel column is a power adjust, it telescopes, and it goes up and down, which it better darn well do that for $60-some thousand. So let's show you the kind of the center stack area here while we're at it. So you've got your screen, which is decent size, works pretty well. You've got buttons for like downhill descent control, traction control off, hazard lights, stop start on and off, the camera control. This screen up here is not factory. That's my backup camera for my trailer, which I always have running actually. Let's see, you've got four-wheel drive controls, trailer backup. You know, I don't really have to go through all this. You guys are probably familiar with it. And then media controls, climate controls, heated and cooled seats. Let's see, the shifter. I like this shifter here in the console, which is great. I don't like the column shift some trucks have. Two cup holders here. Okay, here's your instrument cluster here, which is nice and bright, and you've got this configurable display up here, which I'm not going to go through all that, but tons of things you can select here. Fuel economy, off-road status, you know, tire pressures. You can configure this how you want. Towing information, a lot of good stuff. All your settings are accessed here. Good gauge cluster, I like it. On the lower end trim levels, you don't get this big customizable center LCD like this truck has. In terms of the speedometer and the tach, I like the big legible numbers. I tend to like Ford gauges the best out of all the trucks. You've got more cup holders here, so you've got it in the front, you've got, you know, the cup holders in the door, you've got the two here, you've got the two here, and then of course more in the passenger door over there. Looking at sort of the glove box area and that, you've got this kind of weird area here, I guess. You can't really store stuff there, it'll fall off. Power outlets here, talked about those are great to have. Glove box, which is, you know, decent size. And of course it wouldn't be a Platinum without the Platinum badges on your seats, so when you get in, you know that you have the Platinum truck. Also, I should mention that the seats are supposed to be like a nicer leather than the other trucks, but we're going to talk about Ford's leather here in a minute. I like they put the trailer brake control here in the proper spot. It's below your trailer backup. It's easily accessible with your right hand when you're driving. I've seen some, I think it was the GM trucks in the old days, and maybe still today, they put the trailer brake controller somewhere over here, which wasn't very useful. So you've also got this big center storage area, the sliding thing on the top here, which honestly, I'm going to have to do something about this because when I go around turns, this thing slides around and inside here, and it drives me crazy. But big storage area, you can see you can fit a lot of stuff down in here, which is great. I think all the trucks are doing really well with the storage these days. So let's look at a couple little features in the truck a little bit more. So I wanted to show you of course this truck has the massaging seats, and they call them multi-contour seats. And what you can do is set massage, and you can adjust the pressure. Now the massage is just sort of air bladders inflating and deflating. It's not bad, and it kind of helps pass the time on a long drive. It's not really going to massage you, obviously. I mean, it can't push on you that hard, but there's no way that an automotive seat could do that. You do feel it, and it does kind of help a little bit. The seats are fairly comfortable. You can adjust them a lot. You see the different air bladders here that you can adjust, and you have to have the truck running, by the way. That's why the control isn't working. But yeah, they're fine. I wouldn't really pay extra just to get those. But the Platinum comes with them, and it's an okay feature, but I'm not blown away by it. And the massage is not that effective. So okay, yeah, so talking about the cameras, it does have the surround view camera, which you can see here, and it works okay. The way that the camera screens work is that you can press this button to toggle through and change what you're seeing. So right now the car's in park, so it's not showing me my reverse camera, but I can get my front camera here, which helps me see if I'm backed in the garage enough, and then the surround view camera here. The cameras are not the greatest resolution. There's a lot of new vehicles out there that have better resolution than this, so that's a minor nitpick. You can also see the parking sensors here, which is helpful. But again, you know, like there's the full front view camera. There's another front view, which is just a wider view, I guess. And then let me show you the reverse camera. So there's the reverse camera. So in the default screen shows you, takes about half the screen for the reverse camera and half for the surround view. But if you want a full reverse camera, you can hit the button there, and that's pretty good. But again, the resolution is not great, but it's fine. It works okay. And there's like a wider view, and there's the default view. You can zoom in here on the reverse camera. This is like a hitch view when you're hitching up your trailer, so that's helpful. So I know you want to know about fuel mileage in my F-150. So, you know, the EPA rates this truck, I believe, for maybe, is it 1923, something like that. I'll have to look at the window sticker. I get in that range usually. So if I'm not towing and I'm not hauling weight in mixed driving, I usually get, yeah, between 18 and 22. I can get in the low 20s on the highway. I've seen over 23 miles a gallon on like freeway runs when I'm going like 70 on cruise control on a nice day. And then more around town driving, I tend to get more towards like 18. I think that's pretty good considering how much power the truck has and comparing it to some of the competitors in the class. But don't think you're going to get like crazy good miles a gallon. I mean, when you use the turbo boost and you really get into it, it drops your MPG quite a bit. Enough with the tour. Let's talk about kind of why I got this truck and what are the things I like about it, and then we're going to get to what I don't like and would I buy it again. So the reason I got this truck, so I've had a GMC Sierra, I've had a Chevy Colorado, the current generation, I've had an older Toyota Tundra. And let's see, I guess those are the trucks that I've had. Oh, I've also had a 2015 F-150, so same body style as this, but it was a different color and it was only an XLT, and I had the 5-liter V8. Now, I'm going to have a whole nother video on kind of comparing the 5-liter versus the EcoBoost 3.5, because that's a huge issue for a lot of you people out there. I know that. I've owned both, so I think I can offer you perspective on that. But the reason I got the F-150, there's a few reasons. So I upgraded to this truck from my old F-150 for a lot of reasons. Big one being I wanted to go to the EcoBoost engine for towing. And we're going to talk about that. I also like the lightweight of the Ford trucks. I mean, having all the aluminum sheds a lot of weight, and when you have a lighter vehicle, you get better fuel economy, you increase your payload, you increase your towing, you handle better, so I'm all for that. I like the available features that the Ford has. You can select all sorts of things. You can get adaptive cruise control, which I got. You can get the 36-gallon tank, which I got, which I highly recommend getting that. You can get that panoramic moonroof that I talked about, which I love. You can really configure and get a lot of options on these, and I really do like that. Of course, the price can get really high too. So I've definitely become a full-size truck guy after having the mid-size Colorado. I got the Colorado because I thought, well, it's kind of easier to park, and it was my only vehicle at the time, so, you know, if I want to drive it in the city. But to be honest with you, I like the full-size truck better because you're not paying that much more, but you're getting a lot more power, towing ability. I like the extra 5 inches of width of the truck when you're towing because you can see behind the trailer better. It's just kind of like a value for money thing, I guess, for me at the end of the day. I know a lot of people love their Tacomas and Colorados, and I do too. Those are awesome trucks. And you know what? For off-roading, yeah, a mid-size truck's better than a full-size truck. It just is. But for the stuff I use it for, towing a trailer, we have a Lance travel trailer, which you can watch my reviews on that. The full-size is so much better. So let me tell you what my favorite features of the F-150 are. And this applies to like my particular trim level, but some of them apply to all the models of F-150. I mentioned I like the aluminum construction, so that's a big thing. I love the 3.5 EcoBoost engine, so let me tell you why. So I've had the 5-liter, and the reason I switched to the 3.5 is because of torque. I don't just mean peak torque, but I mean where the torque is delivered in the RPM band. So if you think about it, when you're driving around and you're accelerating or you're towing a load, you want to know how much torque you have at like 2 or 2,500 or 3,000 RPM. So it doesn't do you much good on an engine like the 5-liter where, yeah, it's a great engine, but the peak torque is way too high for towing. So you have to spin the engine way up in the rev range to get the torque out of it. So when you're pulling a load up grades, you know, you're revving the crap out of the engine. Now the engine can take it and it sounds pretty good actually. but I much prefer having the low end torque of the turbo engine. So this 3.5 twin turbo is kind of a beast, and if you probably watched other videos and you know that, the 470 pound-feet of torque on this model is available from, like, I don't know, 2,000 RPM or something like that. So it makes towing heavy loads pretty effortless, and it doesn't feel like the truck is strained. It's also a nice, quiet, refined towing experience as well. I like the 10-speed transmission. I do find it to be a little jerky sometimes. I guess it's not perfect, but I've never really had an auto transmission that I thought was perfect, so I give it a pass on that. But I like having the 10 ratios for being able to tow really well and just always have the right gear ratio for whatever conditions that you're driving in. I mentioned the 36-gallon tank. I love that because when I'm towing and I'm getting 10 or 12 miles a gallon, I can still go a few hundred miles without getting gas, so I don't have to be forced into getting gas at some crappy station in the middle of nowhere. I like the comfort and the luxury features you can get on the F-150. So of course the Platinum has most of that standard, but things like the moonroof, the adaptive cruise control, the massaging seats. I do like all that stuff. It's pretty great. Now I do want to point out that I bought this truck used. So if I was buying it new, would I necessarily get the Platinum? I'm not so sure. That'd be a different video. The Platinum is really kind of expensive to buy new. When you're buying used, the differential is a little bit less, so I think something like a used Lariat or used Platinum makes a lot of sense if you care about those features. Now, a lot of you don't give a darn about those features, and you shouldn't get the high-end level because it'd be a waste of money. I like the looks of the truck. I think it's a good-looking, sharp-looking truck. I don't think it's overstated or crazy styled. I just like how it looks from every angle. And I also like the resale value of the Ford. It has pretty good resale value compared to other trucks, but I guess all full-size trucks are okay, but the Ford seems to do pretty well in that regard. So I want to talk about a few of the things that I don't like, because this is an honest review, and there's a good number of things that I'm not crazy about with this truck, and I'm going to tell you what they are. First, for me, maybe, and this maybe sounds stupid to some of you, but the engine sounds kind of crappy. So, I mean, EcoBoost engines, they kind of sound like vacuum cleaners. So, coming from the 5-liter V8, I had a Mustang with the 5.0, and then I had an F-150 with the 5.0. I love that engine, makes a great sound, but ultimately I decided to sacrifice the sound for the better performance, and make no mistake, the 3.5 outperforms the 5.0 in every situation. One other thing I don't like about the truck, and this comes with the territory, I suppose, with the 3.5, and I mentioned how much I love the EcoBoost, and I do, but one thing that can come up is the heat that the thing produces. So towing a heavy load up a grade, like in hot temperature, I do notice my coolant temperature starts to get up there. It'll get up to 230, 235. One thing I notice it helps is using the manual shift feature to downshift to a lower gear to take some of the load off the turbo, take some of the boost off, and use a little bit more RPM. That tends to help with the heat. I'm not sure if other people are experiencing the same. My truck doesn't overheat really, but it gets hot, and that's something that I never had with my naturally aspirated truck. So something to keep in mind that I'm not crazy about, and kind of makes me a little worried towing in hot conditions. So let's talk about these running boards for a second. So the power running boards, the thing I like about them is that you can't really see them when the truck is driving or when it's parked like this, so that's kind of nice, and they're tucked up out of the way. But the thing that annoys me about these ones in particular, and I'm not sure if this is unique to Ford or if this is all power running boards, but when they come out like this and I go to get something out of the truck or put my drink in a cup holder or get my phone or get my map or whatever it is. So I shifted the angle so you can kind of see better what I'm saying, but you can see that my shins bang into these things. I can't tell you how many bruises I have on my shins from hitting these things, trying to walk up to the truck and get something out of the interior and running my shins. These stick out pretty darn far. Now I know all running boards stick out a little bit, but for some reason, because these move and because they come out so far, it tends to be a worse problem than normal, and I can't walk all the way up to the truck and get into it. I know it sounds like a minor thing, but if you own this truck with the power boards, I think you're going to relate to what I'm saying. Okay, so one of the other gripes I have about the F-150, especially the Platinum when you're paying this much, is some of the quality of the fit and finish and the quality of materials on the interior, or the lack of quality. So like for instance, this hard kind of junky plastic stuff here on the door, like they give you this little leather part, but the rest of it, like this whole thing is pretty much the same module from like the $25,000 work truck, and at almost 3 times the price. I think they should do something about the materials. I'm sure they're going to update this on the newer truck because with competition from Ram, who has like a Mercedes level interior, and even the new Chevy, which is probably a little bit better quality, although I don't like the appearance of it, but they need to do something about the quality of these plastics. There's another interior quality issue which I want to show you right now. So I've turned on my camera light here so you can see better. But this truck, like I said, it's a 2017 model. It has about 50,000 miles on it. I bought it used with around 42,000 miles. And the seat is wearing in not such a good way, and this is not really acceptable to me for such an expensive, such a new truck. So you can see here that the side bolster, the leather finish is somehow like wearing off and looking really discolored and like worn off here. Also, this is kind of flattened out too much, and it's kind of hard to see, but the leather's kind of wrinkled and creased and just doesn't seem to be holding up very well at all. I've had much older cars with leather interiors that look way better than this thing, and this thing's only 2 years old, so that's unacceptable to me. The leather has like scratches and chips off the coloring. I don't know if this is unique to the Platinum, the way they're doing the leather here, but for such an expensive trim level, this is not acceptable to me, and I'm kind of pissed at Ford for having this. Honestly, the issues with the leather is also on the other seat, and it's such a problem for me. I'm thinking of having like Catskin or whatever that company is put new leather coverings on it, because again, you want to be proud of a truck that you pay this much for and is this nice, and then to have this is really kind of a big bummer. So I don't know why it's happening, but it's not okay. One thing I almost forgot about on the dislikes on this is that the cruise control, the adaptive cruise control, I'm having a little issue with it. So sometimes on trips, the adaptive cruise portion will stop working. It'll give me an error saying that the sensor is blocked. Well, the sensor's not blocked. I always get out and make sure like there's no bugs on it or anything, and the sensor's in the front bumper, but it's never been blocked. But I've had this happen like 30 or 40 times now where it'll just stop working. It might be an issue with the connection, with the sensor itself. It's an expensive part, and if your truck's out of warranty, that could be a problem. It's just kind of annoying. This truck's not that old, and I can't really replicate the problem for the dealer because it only happens for some reason when I'm out on long drives. So anyway, that's kind of annoying.
One other nitpick I have with the truck is the cooled seats. So the truck has heated and cooled seats. You can see here it's got the perforations in the leather. You can also see here this the wear that I'm talking about. Now, the cooled seats just don't work very well. And this is kind of a documented issue with these trucks. But there's some issue with the fans or the ventilation in the seats, and you don't feel much cool air coming through. You feel a little bit on the bottom, but not much on the back. And what kind of tends to happen is it works for like, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes, and then it doesn't really work much anymore. I was really hoping to get a nice cooled seat for those hot summer days, but compared to other cars with cooled seats, they're below average, I would have to say. So that's kind of a bummer. The heated seats work okay, but they don't work as well as Honestly, they don't work as well as heated seats in the lower trim levels because they don't use a heating element in the seat. They use warm air coming through. They work, but they just don't work as quickly as traditional heated seats that are just using like a heating element in the seat. So I think the question is, if this truck was totaled or if it was stolen or whatever, would I buy an F-150 again? And I think the answer is yes, and let me tell you why. So if you're comparing these trucks new, now keep in mind I bought this used, it's a 2017, but let's say I was buying a new truck to replace it. So comparing to the GM and the Chevy, so the Chevy's interior is not very good considering it was just redone. It's okay, it's functional, it's a good functional all-around truck. Probably my second choice if I didn't get the Ford would probably be to get a GMC Sierra. I'd get the 6.2 liter, and I think that comes with an 8 or a 10 speed. And that I think would be a great truck to have. It still probably wouldn't tow as well as this because the twin turbo V6 is just insane, having the torque down low, almost like a diesel engine. Comparing to the Ram, so the Ram, I was so close to buying a brand new Ram, a 2019 limited actually Ram. So I was so close to buying that Ram brand new because I could get a really good deal on it. The interior, if you haven't been in a new Ram, you really owe it to yourself to go check that out. The interior is amazing on those. It's like stepping into a Mercedes. Very impressive, way better than this truck, I will be honest about that. Now the powertrain for me on the Ram was just okay. The 5.7 Hemi is a proven engine, pretty durable, good power, sounds good, but it doesn't have the low-end torque of the twin turbo. Again, it keeps coming back to how unique the twin turbo V6 is in the Ford. The other thing I like about the Ram is the ride. The ride is much better in the Ram than any of the other trucks because it's got that independent rear suspension. But for my money, I would still probably buy another Ford, honestly. Would I get a Platinum? Probably not, to be honest. I don't need some of the extra features. The perfect F-150 for me would probably be a Lariat with the sunroof and with the adaptive cruise added. I don't need the massaging seats. I don't need the power running boards. I don't need some of the fancier trim on the Platinum. So that would probably be what I would get, and I'd probably stick with the Ford. I'm excited to see how Ford redesigns the truck. I think they're bringing out a new one for next year. This is Ian from Big Rock ADV. Please subscribe. I'm going to have future videos on comparing the engine choices in this truck and some other detailed things about the truck in the future. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.